Hi, welcome to Knits Up. I am Mindy, your hostess, otherwise known as Knitter CNY, and I'm coming to you from upstate New York. And you can find show notes at knitsup.libsyn.com. You can also find links to the various places where we use social media. Over on Ravelry, there is a podcast group that you'll find over there, and feel free to join and contribute, and you can catch all the fun things that we're doing over there. It's been a while since I've broadcast or podcasted, as the case may be. Part of the reason for that was I was sick for 2 weeks. It started out as a viral infection, and I was really hoarse and stuff, just really fatigued. Then after about 6 days, I went to the doctor, and they're like, well, it's going into a bacterial infection now, and so they put me on a course of antibiotics, and it took about a week to start feeling better. So this is really one of the first weekends in about 3 weeks where I felt totally with it. So I thought I'd record, because a couple people asked me, what's going on? Why haven't you recorded? And I explained I had been sick. They were worried about if Blip had kicked me off or not, because apparently there's a bunch of podcasters who have been told that their shows are not good with the Blip format or something. And I don't know the rhyme or reason for why I haven't been, asked to remove myself, whatever. Maybe it's because I've been there a while. I have no clue, but Blip has sent me a letter saying, you're okay for now. We'll let you know if there's a problem. So they're in the process of, I think, reviewing everybody's programs, because they have a lot of programming, and they were also acquired. I think it's by the Make Network, M-A-K-E. So I think they're kind of retuning as they figure out what format and what they're going to be all about in the future. So, with that being said, I'm here, I'm alive. I think I'll show you the one finished object I have. Pardon me while I lean up just a tiny bit. This doesn't have all the ends woven in yet, but this is a hat. Very simple hat out of Lion Brand Wool Ease in the Pines print. Sort of a blue and green. It's kind of showing up gray, but it's like a piney green. And then I'm also working on a scarf out of the same yarn. It looks a little odd now. Let me get all the ends out of here. This is the same yarn. This is one end of the scarf. This is the middle of the scarf, and then there'll be another end that's like this. The reason I'm doing this is this is called the Seafarer's Scarf, and this is the Seafarer's Hat, I think is what it is. I got a magazine at Walmart a while ago. I've talked about this magazine in the past. This is Knit 123. This is their first anniversary edition. This is the issue number 7. And in there they had an article about the Christmas at Sea program that is put on by the Seamen's Church Institute. If you look, there's a thread in my podcast group for charity knitting / crocheting. They'll accept both. And basically what this organization does is, since the Spanish-American War, before the turn of the century, before the turn of the century before this one, so for 115 years, they have been providing mariners who are at port before Christmas time small packages of a present that would be useful, and some literature about their organization. But it's knitters and crocheters and quilters and all sorts of people, weavers that make hats and scarves, and some like ear flap hats, pardon me, for them. And you mail it to New Jersey. There's an address that's in this article that will tell you how to get there. And you mail them to New Jersey. They have volunteers that sort all through them, package them up, get the basically like a kit bag ready for the soldier, not for soldiers, for the sailors, mariners who are in port. I think they do it in Los Angeles and Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. And they distribute them around November 1st, so that with the idea of if your ship is out to sea at Christmas time, you will receive a present. Now, it's a small present. It's probably a hat and a scarf, but it's something that you can use on board with the idea that these mariners are away from their families at the holiday times. And it would be a nice thing for them to have, even just a small present of, you know, somebody cares about you, here you go. So I thought that was kind of a neat idea. So I did the hat, and then I also I'm working on this scarf. Now this scarf last night, it might be a little full, you know, might be a little wet in the middle. Went to a marching band show last night at my old high school, and I was sitting up in the stands working on this because this is just, they do it this way for the middle of the scarf so it doesn't bunch up on your neck, but then you can turn it like that and your chest is protected too, so it doesn't bunch up around your neck. And I'm just using, you know, some leftover woolies that I had in the stash because they ask that it have some wool in it, either a washable wool or a wool blend. And woolies has at least 20% wool, and so that's good. But they can still machine wash and dry it. So I thought that's kind of neat, and I thought I'd do that. So I'm working on that. The other thing I'm working on are socks right now. I have been working on my Patton's Croy socks, and these are, they're marls. Can't remember what it is. Let me find this. It is Croy Socks Rags Shade, and this is the gray brown marl colorway. This at the top is a different skein of yarn. The dark gray is Croy Socks, and it is Gentry Gray, because I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough of the marl to finish the sock, so I figured if I did the ribbing here and if I had to use this for the toe, because I've had to steal some yarn out of this skein. There was another pair of socks that I worked on that I needed, I think it was the brown color, and so I stole some of the brown color out of the end of one of the skeins, so I don't really know how much I have left. So I didn't want to like do the stripe sequence and have it be bizarre. This had started out as 2 socks on magic loop, and it was on a size 0, and Croy is just too thick for a 0 for me. Croy's a little bit thicker fingering weight than some of the others. So I've been working on that. The other pair of socks I've been working on is also, sorry for leaning, a pair of Croy socks. I was in, it was Joann's, which was an experience in itself. So I started working on these. I know they're starting out at different points, but I didn't really want to sacrifice a whole bunch of the yarn to try and figure out where it was. So, and they're under my jeans at work, so nobody really cares what it looks like. There's a patterning with it. It's kind of like a pop art kind of thing. And it's purples and pinks. And then there's also going to be a red in it as well. It looks like that. So black, red, pink, and purple. And this colorway is called Fiesta jacquard. So that's kind of a cool colorway. It's brighter than that in person. The pink is really fuchsia. It's a really fuchsia color. And then there's also like a light pink in there as well. So that'll kind of be, they're kind of eye-popping socks, but they're cute. So I figured they're going to be really, really, really nice. And then I started a pair of socks last night on a 9-inch circular, a Hiya circular that I have, and it's just going so much slower. I watched another podcast, and they were talking about how they used 8-inch circulars, and they love them, and or a 9-inch circular. I have a 9-inch circular. It and I don't really get along. I tend to knit really, really loosely on it, so I may even rip this out and start again. This looks like that. And it looks like this in the ball. I just balled it up. This is Into the World, and it is called tell me where you're called. Into the World Pakoko, I believe is how you say it. Pakoko, maybe. And this is the Children of Time colorway. This I bought last year at Rhinebeck. This is Rhinebeck weekend. I did not go to Rhinebeck this year. Part of the reason I didn't go to Rhinebeck was because I'm in Rhinebeck in 2011 and 2012. I bought stuff at Rhinebeck that I never used. Literally, I bought stuff at both Rhinebecks that I have never used. So it is time to use the Rhinebeck yarn. And then hopefully I'll go through that, and then maybe I can go next year. Because I didn't see the point in spending, $60 to go on the bus with the local spinning guild and then spending more money on things that when I haven't even used the other stuff. So this is Children of Time. I'm just doing a 2x2 rib. Like I said, I may rip this out. It's a little thinner than Croy is. Can't really see that, but it's a tad thinner. And I'm a little concerned, so I'm trying to transfer it onto my Chowgoos. These are both 2.25 millimeters, the US size 1, but I think the Chowgoos I can get a tighter grip on, so it's not going to be as loose when I'm trying to knit with it, and that would be a good thing. Some of the other yarn, speaking of stuff from Rhinebeck, we talked about this a while ago, and I want to make a daybreak shawl. I think that's a Stephen West pattern. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I have this, which is Gypsy Girl Creations. If I pull back, you can kind of get a color of what that looks like. It's a gradient. It's really pretty. That I bought at Rhinebeck 2 years ago, I think. And I'd been in the local knitting shop, a few months ago now, and had bought a wool yarn fingering weight that's, I think it's Southwest Trading Company's Jezebel. And it's just a really simple, it's a dark purple. This is kind of showing up more blue than it actually is, but it's really like a grape jelly purple. But it's like a bright grape jelly purple. So I thought that would set off the yellow and the other colors, because the Daybreak has the spokes that are the solid color, and then I figured with that changing gradient in the background it would be really pretty. I do have to get back to that. I think this is on, did I actually put this in my, question is, did I put this into my, strolling down the avenue. I didn't even enter this. I didn't even put this into the, did I? I didn't even put this on my projects page, which is, oh, Daylight. That's what I call it. Okay, so it's Daybreak, and I'm using a US size 5. These are Addy Turbo. I think it's an Addy Turbo lace, maybe. So they're a little pointier, but so I got one skein of the Jezebel and 2 of the Gypsy Girl Creations, because the Gypsy Girl Creations are, I think they're 200 meters a piece, 200 yards. Stash. Okay, and I also have another pair of socks that's going with yarn that I bought at Webb's, and that is on a US 0. And I will try to put a copy of that in. I called it Ditto Feet. It's made out of universal yarn Ditto. I can't remember the colorway, but it's like a purple and a blue and a brown beige with black in between, and it's sort of a marled kind of a thing. But it looks cute, but I'm not going crazy about it. So that project's somewhere. I just don't know where right at the moment. It's in a bag right next to me. Because it's more fun when you actually see the project versus me talking about it. This is them. This is Universal Yarns Ditto. And you can kind of see the striping effect. Again, these aren't going to match perfectly, but they're pretty close. This is what it looks like in the skein. Not much to look at. There's like a brown, blackish sort of thing running through it. And I'm just, that's 75% superwash wool and 25% polyamide. That I bought at Webb's at a tent sale like 4 years ago. So I'm trying to use up some of the stash with the, with the idea that if I move some out, then I'll be much happier. That being said, of course, I bought something. We had an apple festival in town up at the Speedway. Dirt track racing is a big deal around here. We have like Super Dirt Week out at the state fairgrounds. But in my town, there is a dirt track, and every Friday night during the summer and the fall, they run a dirt race. The same owners of that speedway are also building a paved track. So the plan is next year when they open, they're going to run dirt races on Friday night. They're going to run paved asphalt races on Saturday nights. And the tracks are right next to each other. And it's off of the interstate highway, so they should get some people from there. It's been that there for like 45, 50 years almost. Because before I was born, my parents used to live across the street from it. But we're on the other side of town now. But you can still hear the races all the time. And it's not anything that if you close your windows, turn on your air conditioner, you can't hear in the summer. It's not a big deal. And it brings taxes into the area. It brings visitors who are purchasing stuff in town. And generally, everybody's really well behaved. They bring their kids to it. They go home. So, at this speedway, obviously when they weren't having a race, with the Apple Festival last weekend, the local Lioness, the female version of the Lions Club, the Lioness Club, had a fundraiser with Apple type things. People make pies, there's games, there's crafts, it was kind of fun. We went to the crepe van and they made crepes for us, which was really good. But one of the ladies that is there is a local person, Stitch Ups. I'll link her in the notes. She does a whole bunch of shows, and she sews bags. Beautiful embroidered bags, padded bags. They're anything from purses to like sock bags. And she also knits. And so she has yarn and she sells it. And she does also sells finished socks. She is usually, I think she usually uses the cherry swirl pattern put out by Fleece Artist. It's a free pattern. It kind of has a little swirl that repeats. It's a little traveling stitch, I guess you would call it. So I'll link to that pattern as well, because it's a good pattern for if you have variegated yarn to kind of break up that variegation, and it's relatively easy to do. I am going to start a pair of socks using this yarn. And this kind of really shows the color. That's pretty accurate. It's that kind of, it almost looks like somebody took a brush and went like this. And what this is Fleece Artist. They're a Canadian company out of Nova Scotia. And this is BFL socks. And basically what it does is it has, BFL is Blueface Leisure. Anyways, it's a longer staple of yarn than merino, so it's a little more durable. And this is 75% BFL and, no, I'm sorry, it's 80% superwash BFL and 20% nylon. And it's 325 meters. So that's a good length. That is something I'm going to really enjoy knitting. I want to see how they wear versus Croy, because Croy is pretty much my go-to yarn right now. I've also been working on some spinning. I'm still working on just a random yarn I bought at a random bat, I guess, I bought at the farmer's market locally, the regional market down by the Destiny USA, which is our big lovely mall. And this is what this looks like. I'm getting pretty thin. This is pretty good for singles. It's got a lot of lanolin in it, so it's very, very easy to spin. It's a mix of the farmer's sheep. She said she has some thin, whole bunch of different sheep. And I think I talked about this in one other episode. I got like a half a pound for about $11. So I'm just going to make a really plain, probably a 2-ply wool, and apply it with a spindle. I'm using a Louette Student spindle that's a top whirl. So when you do it, you go this way, clockwise. It's got a really heavy whirl, so it spins for quite a long time. And all of a sudden I can get stuff thin. I haven't worked on the shocked spindle. I have a high-low spindle, and I'm using it high whirl. It has high whirl means the hook is on the top. If it was low whirl, there'd be a little notch here, and you'd spin this way. The shocked spindle has the whirl is thinner, and it's less in diameter. It's a smaller circle at the top, and it doesn't weigh as much. This is probably a 3-ounce spindle, and the shocked is a 1.1 ounce, I believe. So it can spin a little bit finer. It's a little bit easier on my wrist and stuff. This is one evening's worth of spinning, so this goes really fast. And of course, my stuff is not even. It's odd and thick and thin and all of that, but you know, I'm just learning, and that's why I got a half a pound of this random rolling, because that way I can practice and get better at it. And I've got all those other fibers that I got at the Hemlock Finger Lakes Fiber Fest that I can use. The only other thing that I got in the works is I've got a sweater's worth of Simply Soft hand paints. That's in, I think it's like the Sticks and Stones colorway. It's sort of browns, painted. It's 100% acrylic. It's pretty easy going, and it's not anything truly spectacular, but it's going to be cute. And I wanted to make something that kind of was an easy sweater. And I came across it with this, which is out of an old Knit Simple magazine. This is, I think, the holiday 2011 issue. It had Vicki Howell on the cover when she was first coming out. It was sheepish. This is this sweater. It's just a top-down raglan with a shawl collar. Really simple. I may or may not add buttons to it. I'm not sure. I could just do a button thing on it. It's not a big deal for me to put buttonholes in. And this is by Amy Powelson. They show it in Lorna Laces. Lorna's Laces. Wow. Lorna Laces Shepherd Worsted. Like I said, I'm using Simply Soft, which is also a worsted. And we'll see how that turns out. I have a sweater's worth of that, so I wanted to use that because my office gets cold in the winter, and this would be nice with like a tee like this to layer. So that's, I'll probably cast on for that after I get a few pairs of socks done and the shawl done in my Seafarers project. And let's see, what else do I have? There's another shawl that I want to be working on too. This is by Maureen Mason Jameson. It's called the Whimsy Lace Scarf Shawl. And the color I got for that is like a blue. It's a Sheldridge Farm wool. It's really nice. It's 100% wool. It's a lace weight. And it's really pretty. Again, this is something that I bought at Rhinebeck, and it's sitting here not getting used, so I want to use that. The other thing that I picked up this a couple weeks ago, we have a store that's called Ollie's in the Syracuse area. It's a chain of it's a discounter that's a chain, and occasionally they will have knitting books in there. And so the knitting book I picked up was Socks a la carte 2 Toes Up. And I had the other a la carte socks book. It's really nice. It has a spiral bound so it can lay flat. It tells you how it works. It has stitch patterns in it that you can use for the body. But then when you want to make your sock, it has a flip book in the back. And this is divided into 3 parts: the cuff, the body, and the foot. And basically you can flip through and you can change what patterning it is. And they're toe up. I don't know how different this is going to be. And then there's a little elastic cord here that goes over it. But then these little boxes tell you what page tells you what page you'll find this on. Like it'll say, okay, this stitch is on page 52 or whatever. I'm just making up a random number. But so you get a different set of socks every time depending on what you choose. And it lays flat, so it's really easy to use. And I thought, I haven't really done toe-up socks. I've started them and not been happy with what I got. And this is by the people that do the Southwest Trading Company. Janelle Ruffino and Catherine Cady. So I got the top-down book, and now I have this book. And this book was on Remainder for $2.99. So a $3 sock book that you don't find every day. And I think it lists out at $22.99 if you bought this in Barnes & Noble, say, or wherever you buy books. But for $2.99, I'm good with that. So I think that's it for this week. If you're interested, like I said, if you're interested in the Christmas at Sea program, check out the Knit 123 that's on stands now. It has a good article explaining that. There's also a hat pattern that is in there that they did as well. Doesn't tell me who made the hat. Doesn't tell me who's the author of this hat, but there's a cute little hat that's in there with a little cross. I just did the one that's on the organization's website, the Christmas at Sea website. But they're free PDF patterns that you can look at for the stuff that I was doing. So I hope you guys have a great week and go knit something.